Hi, Matt. We are live, just so you know.
Hi, Candace. Hi, Stacy.
Good
Hello.
evening, Matt.
Hey, Candace, I'm going to text you real quick and ask you a question, okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks.
All right. Yep. Good evening, Huber Heights families. We're going to start just in a minute or so, but wanted to say hi. Are we good to go, Stacy and Candace?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So once again, good evening. My name is Matt Hausch, and I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Huber Heights City Schools. And tonight we have from the Montgomery County ESC, we've got Stacy Anderson Cook, who's going to be walking you through the PLP program. You want to say hi, Stacy?
Hi. Nice to see you tonight.
And we have Candace Sears, who's also going to be helping us navigate the questions, and she'll be here with us tonight.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. Great to see so many families on, and we know these are new roads for us, but we'll get through this together, and we've learned a lot and we'll continue to learn together. So welcome back to the start of a new school year.
Yeah, and I put a question out there about how your first day of school went, and I saw some of the comments. So we're definitely going to keep working together and get through some of these challenges. I mean, I know it's hard, especially the first couple of days to log on and to get access. And we're just going to keep working with parents and students to make sure that you have the access you need. And we're going to be responsive. So it will get better. It will smooth out for sure. And I was also glad to see some positive comments about how things went well. And I hope that your children, your students were glad to see their teachers and connect with their classmates. So just for the intro here, I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing. So first of all, I want to once again introduce myself. My name is Matt Hausch. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. I was a principal at Valley Forge Elementary about 10 years ago. And then I went to another district for 10 years and now I'm back. So this is my first year in Huber, first year back in Huber, and really excited to be here. And want to talk to you a little bit about online learning. As I said before, there are going to be some bumps. It's not going to be smooth at the beginning, but we're going to work through those challenges and it will continue to get better and better. One thing that's important to know is that when your students start their day, if they're in kindergarten through second grade, they're always going to go into something called Seesaw. That is the management system, the platform that we want students to start in if they're in kindergarten through second grade. And if they're in third through 12th grade, they start in Google Classroom. And the way that we like to the analogy we use is that it's like the lobby of the hotel. It's the first place that you enter. It's the place where you're going to check in so that you can understand, your child understands what's happening for the day. And then anything you do will branch out from there. So we will go on to PLP from there. Or if there's another site that the kids might be using, it kind of starts with either Seesaw or Google Classroom. And that's really important because it's going to be a great way for kids to connect with their teachers and each other and communicate and comment on each other's work and just do a lot of things that are going to be really important for their learning. And PLP, some people were asking this last night, schools PLP is going to be accessed from Seesaw or Google Classroom. So there'll be a link there and your kids can click straight from one of those platforms to PLP. And we've tried to make it so that everything's streamlined so that there aren't a lot of different places that your kids need to travel to get to the information. They kind of start off in Seesaw or Google Classroom and then everything goes from there. Want to talk to you a little bit about why we chose Schools PLP. We feel like this is a really dynamic program. It has a lot to offer. There's a lot of rigorous content in there and lots of different courses that match what we would normally do with kids in terms of the different subject areas. We also love the tools in there. There are some really nice tools where you can read the text. It'll read the text to you. Some assessments in there, some grading pieces. So there's lots of it that's going to work well for our teachers and our students. And you'll get to see more of that with Stacy here in a moment. And finally, I just want to say that, we are in the first couple of days of school, this first day, and then tomorrow, we are really focused on developing relationships with our students. So even though everyone's kind of eager to get into Schools PLP, we're really not starting that until next week because we want to intentionally build connections with our students. Our teachers want to get to know them. We want to introduce the class to each other and really kind of go through routines and some of the things that you might have struggled with today about logging in and how do we access things. those are the things that teachers are really focused on in the first couple of days of school. So we're going to continue to practice and walk your students through those things so that they become more and more comfortable. So I do promise it will get better. Issues with passwords and things will get better as well. We'll make sure you have what you need. But just, over the today and tomorrow and even into Monday, we're really trying to set the tone and try to develop that rapport with kids. So I hope that all makes sense. I'm going to be here throughout the training, and then at the end, I will come back on and answer questions. So thanks for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure they're excited. It sounds like you have a nice program developing here. And as he mentioned, as Mr. House mentioned, this is Schools PLP is just one piece of that program that they're providing. And so what I'm going to show you tonight is just how to log into the School PLP, how to access and work on your courses. And we also want to show parents how they can help their children do the best on this School PLP work. So let me share a little bit here. I'm going to get into the screen. Now, when you log in, it will say Huber Heights Schools PLP, and you will have a username and password to get into it. And parents, you use the same username and password as your child. The only difference is instead of just logging straight in, as parents, you click the box beside the login. And that way, you can do that at any time while your student's working, while they're not. But you can log in. I'll start with parents and show you a data dashboard. And this is the same screen that your child will see. They'll have all the courses that they're taking. They'll have kind of a running record of their grades at the current time, their progress graphing. This is just a little bar graph that tells you how they're progressing through the assignments that have been pushed out to the student. So if there were 5 lessons for 5 days, and it's Friday, the gray bar is the progress. That gray bar should be right about there, right toward the last day of the week. And if your progress is the red bar, that's not a good sign, right? Because it means you're getting a little bit behind. So you might want to talk to somebody and talk to your child, talk to your teacher, and figure out how you can catch up and make sure you're working enough in each course to complete the assignments on time. And so down here, this is where I want you to look, okay? The gray bar and the green bar should be aligned. If it's halfway through the week, the bars may be right about in the middle of this bar. And if it's the end of the week, all of the work that was assigned is completed and it's all done on the same time, you'll have a full green bar like that. So it's just kind of a current running progress on assignments that have been placed by the teacher. And I like how your school is pushing this out with you'll have your assignments from your Google Classroom or your Seesaw. So parents, I also want you to notice if I go to any one of the courses, notice how a line appears. That's how I can take a look at some of the assignments coming up, okay, that are in the course. And of course, because you are working with your teachers as well, they could be doing some adjustments to those. But it will show their current scores on some assignments that were submitted in School PLP, some last activity, PACE dates, attempts. They really encourage students to try to pass those, get mastery on their practices and their assessments the first time, but they do offer repeated attempts at times. So I'm going to go back here. And now you can tab across and know any current grades that are earned in the course in School PLP. And here, like if the student is behind, this is the tracking progress again. And this kind of just tells you, am I passing the work? Am I keeping up where I need to be or not? And so that you can support them. And then there's some grades, current grades, and these are not real students, so don't be alarmed. Instructional days, hours logged, finished lessons, the number of lessons still to go, and total lessons and credits. Okay, so it's just a nice overall in each course where they're at. And then the daily activity really tells you specifically, when they logged in, how active have they been in the course? How many minutes did they actually work watching the videos and all those things? And what reading and completing assignments. And here again are the mastered first try attempts. And these are just login sessions when they do log into the computer. And then over here, this is an important one, even though your teachers might have some other methods that they communicate with your child. If they really want to make sure you see the message and your child sees the message, they can communicate through the platform, and they can send a message directly to your student, and it will freeze the screen like this. You won't be able to look at all the data, and they won't be able to start their work. So don't be alarmed if you log in and you don't see all the courses. That just means there's probably a message. And if you click on the message and acknowledge it, you can go back, you can say, I acknowledge this message, or I see this message in the student login, and then it'll let the student work on that course. Now the parents can't message from their screen, okay? You can't, let me go back to the front too. You can't work on the courses. There's no work tab. You can't message. And the need help tab doesn't quite work, but all of that does work from your students, your child's login, okay? And I do highly encourage that you, instead of doing what I tend to do sometimes, click the X to close, you want to give the whole LMS a boost by clicking that log out, and it finishes that work, and I don't know, it does what it has to do, and it logs back in much tidier. So when we use the log out to log out, and then I'm going to log back in now as the student, because I'm sure they want to know, what is this going to look like? The School POP has a lot of content, different publishers, but your district chose a lot of the Lincoln Learning lessons, and they have some really neat components. So I'm going to show you, let's talk about this a minute. And all the courses, some of the big differences in the student login, you'll see these pencils under each course that say, work on this course. Beside each pencil, right below the course name, okay? That's a real important piece, because that's how you get in to work on your lessons. There's a send message tab, okay? And there's that need help tab. So if you've forgotten how to do something, how to submit an assignment, you can hit the need help tab and type your question down here, okay? And you can close that up and it'll go away again. Okay, so I want to go in and show you just a little bit about a course. Work on this course. Okay, and I'm going to clean this up a little. These little carets that open and close will close all the folders beneath the categories. And these are the different units throughout the lesson, throughout the course, I mean. So the course overview, I showed you, that will take you back to that spreadsheet of data. The course resources, I'll click on that and just talk you through a little bit. I recommend that parents, you take the time to look at those course resources. The most important one in here, and I guess they're all kind of important, but the parent and teacher guide has a lot of valuable information for you. It will really talk about the content that's being taught to your child, the theories behind it, the concept behind the design of the lessons, a lot of good information. So I recommend you do download that and don't print it. They're like almost 200 pages. There's a guide to social and emotional learning, a pacing guide that may change because I know your district's trying to really align closely to the curriculum that they're already using. And the teacher will give you guidance on any supplies, so we don't need to worry about the supply list either. So I want to give you a taste of looking around here just to navigate, okay? To go from one lesson to the next, you want to click the next activity. And watch the yellow tab there. It'll go down when I click next. Notice it open down to lesson 2. Okay, I can push it back, but it'll remember that if I log off, it'll log me right back in where I stopped working. Okay, so let me go back to lesson 1 just for fun. And if I want to see the lesson over here in full screen, I can open this up with this box like this. Okay, I can press my escape button, or I was going to show you the other thing. Let me do that again. Open it up. I can use this little cross thing here to close it back up. Okay. So I recommend, like, I know you're spending some time getting to know your teachers, and when you do get access to the content in School Puppy, take time just to click around and get familiar with what's here. Okay. I'm going to skip down to a read it just to show you real quick, because there's a tool, and I know Mr. Hausch mentioned it. This read aloud tool is right here. It looks like the little compass. Let me go full screen again. If I open the compass, it'll guide me to read aloud the whole text just by clicking that first one. It'll read the whole text. Click it again to turn it off. If I just want to click, or if I just wanted to read something in particular, maybe I just don't know that long word that begins with T, I can just highlight that piece and click the arrow. Okay, I can also have it translate that
Terrestrial.
word by doing the same thing, highlight, hit the globe. Okay, I have it set to Spanish, so it'll show me the Spanish word and read that. All right.
Terrestre.
And I can change the language by using the gear key. There's about 50 or 60 different languages, but maybe I just want to know what that word means. Again, I can highlight that word, and now I can click on this book, and the book's the symbol for a dictionary. I recommend everybody have a hard copy, paper copy too, of a dictionary. They're fun to look through. But terrestrial, what does that mean?
Adjective. Of or relating to or inhabiting the land as adjective. Of or relating to
Oh,
or
I hit it
inhabiting the
twice. So, and then I can do sticky notes if I want to keep some notes on what I've read, and I can highlight text too. And you can see I've already done that by playing around. You highlight whatever you want to highlight and come up here and pick the color. You can change the colors of your highlighters. So you don't have to be writing on your computer with anything that shouldn't be on the computer. It has them all built in, okay? Now, a lot of the lessons in Lincoln Learning will have several different components. They'll have things to read, and obviously you can use the read aloud tool to help you. There are lessons, there's teach it's or watch it's, teach it's, read it's, show it's, show it, answer key, teach it, read it, show it, show it. So they kind of wrap around and give you all kinds of ways to kind of ignite your learning. Think about what you already know about the concept, build content by teaching it through videos. Let me show you a little teach it. And the read it's all complement the videos. So once you watch the video and then you go to the read it's, you're going to hear a lot of the similar vocabulary. Okay, and you'll see this animated teaching.
Hello, thanks for joining me today for our lesson about terrestrial habitats. In today's lesson, we will identify terrestrial habitats. Have you ever heard of the word habitat?
Okay, and she's going to read through like that. Notice the cursor's moving and it highlighted, so you can get an idea of how it guides you to follow along with the reading. And this happens before the student would engage in the read it. So they go from the teach it to the read it. And then there's activities to show it. And your teachers might have other ways that they want them to show the understanding, and they might put that in their Google Classroom. They might teach the students how to do a screenshot. It's kind of fun to take these and screenshot them, and then you can use the write on tool to write right on them. Or you can do these activities. Have a little off screen time, and your teacher might say to fold a paper into fourths, right? Fold it once and fold it twice and complete the assignment this way on regular paper. So there's different ways to work through the course. But if you did a screenshot, you could write right on here. I'll just show you real quick. And then I can get my marker and I can say, okay, I can do a habitat. I can draw a tree up here, right? And maybe I can draw a forest, different ways to just show the learning. But your teachers will be giving you feedback on that and how to navigate some of these. But if I wanted to show my teacher my show it, at the end, I would put it down here and I would submit. I would have a little plus sign if I hadn't submitted yet and ask you to submit that file. So there's different ways, and your teachers will show you. They might ask you to put it in their Google Classroom or their Seesaw. So that's just a taste of what the course looks like. Notice all the different units, and your teacher might decide to hide some of these until you're ready to see them. But it's basically how you navigate around. Open it up, right? You can close it back up, escape. And that's about it. So hopefully just by seeing it, getting your eyes on this a little bit, you have an idea of what it's going to look like. There are lessons in the older grades where you're going to do more multiple choice, write in the text, and it'll grade it for you so you know exactly what you did and what you need to study a little more on. So, but that's just a glimpse of school PLP. Okay, if you have more questions, we're going to stay around and answer any questions that you have too. If there's something you want me to show again, I can do that. Okay.
Thanks, Stacy. So I was monitoring the chat and saw a lot of comments in there. So I'm just gonna speak to a few of them first, and then Candace will be able to capture some of the questions that were asked. So first of all, I saw that there were some comments about students using lots of different platforms, and I want to kind of restate what the plan it should be. And this is something that we're still we need to get better at as we go. But the idea is that if you're in kindergarten through second, your main platform is Seesaw. That is the main place where you're going to get information, where all of your links and things will be, your communication from teachers. So that is the main platform. And for 3rd through 12th grade students, the main platform is Google Classroom. So the idea is that those two pieces are the first place you go, the main place that you go, the place where you get your information for the day, and then you would travel from there to school's PLP if you're doing lessons in school's PLP. So those are the places that are the home base or the main landing places for your kids to be. And we're trying to minimize the sites that they might travel to. That's one of the reasons why we chose PLP, because it's got most of what they need. So it's from Seesaw, Google Classroom to PLP. Those are the main two areas where kids are going to be learning and getting their information. Okay, so Candace, do you have some questions?
Yes, yeah, we have a few questions in the chat. So thank you, families, for sharing your questions. We definitely want to help you through. This is all new, so thank you for your thoughtful questions in the chat. I think one was, Mr. Hausch, when do we start? There was some confusion of when do they actually start the PLP piece. So if you could just share that again with us.
Right. So what we decided was September 1st was really our, official launch date for PLP. And the reason why is we wanted to take, a few days to really go through routines, teach kids how to access the information, how to log in, how to get used to Google Classroom and Seesaw. We want to build relationships. So a lot of what your kids probably did today was sharing about themselves and learning about their teacher and learning about each other. So we have intentionally taken some time to really take care of setting up our environment, starting to develop relationships, solving problems. So PLP starts next week.
Great. Another question: if someone is having trouble getting logged in, where or who might they reach out to?
So there are lots of people that are willing to help. I would say always the first stop is your teacher, because your teacher might be able to solve that problem very quickly. It might just be, the password, maybe you used a lowercase instead of an uppercase, or it's something like that. If you are unable to reach your teacher or hear back from them quickly, the building principal, the assistant principal, the secretary, there are counselors. So everyone at school is really focused on helping your kids get access. And that's what the teachers and the administration was doing today. That's what people in my department were doing. We were all hands on deck trying to make sure that we get everyone connected. So I would start with the teacher, but you don't have to stop there. And then the other thing is we do have a tech request form on our website. So if you go to the technology department, if you're having a problem, your Chromebook's not working or something that's not can't be solved easily by your teacher, we're going to refer you to that tech request, and the tech department's going through these tickets really quickly as well. So everyone's focused on this, but reach out to your teacher for sure.
Super. For those families that are opting to keep their kids virtual for longer than phase one, will the platforms they're using now remain the same?
Yes, I'm very glad about that question, because I wanted to talk a little bit further about this. We are going to continue to do blended learning even when we're back in person. So when I talk about blended learning, I'm talking about, even in person, you sometimes are using technology and you're using in-person instruction, and you're kind of blending those things together so that kids are engaged and we have a differentiated experience, and we can just, serve our learners better. So as we continue forward from this point, we're going to continue to do blended learning in the classroom, and if you're online. And if some students decide to remain online when others are coming back, that's okay. That's the option that you have. And we'll continue to use PLP and Google Classroom and Seesaw. Those are going to consistently be there for your kids, whether they're online or they're in person. And another thing I wanted to say is, one of the other reasons we're using Google Classroom and Seesaw is because we want our teachers to also be able to put their rich content out there. They've got great lessons. They've got a lot of materials and resources that are really awesome. So it's not that we're just saying it's PLP and that's it. We are blending the things that Huber Heights teachers do very well with this other resource, which is Schools PLP, so that we can serve your kids the best and give them the best learning experience. So that's another reason why it's so important to realize that Google Classroom and Seesaw are the main platforms for your child, because that's where teachers will also be putting lessons and information.
Super. Mrs. Anderson, there was a question about the red bar, the green bar, and the gray bar. Can you just share with us again what those three bars represent, or the different colors represent?
Yes. You notice there was a bar. The bottom gray bar is where the student should be progressing through the course. If they're passing the lessons, and let's say it's a week's progress, they're showing all the assignments for the week and they're on track to complete those, say 5 lessons for the week. Whatever the teacher has pushed out to them, it'll just automatically set a progress bar. If the child is not doing assignments, maybe they've only done 1 assignment, it might show a red bar above it. It will be a shorter bar than the gray bar. So the gray bar moves along as the week progresses, right? Anticipating that you're completing assignments. And it just kind of gives you a gauge on, are they completing it at the right rate, or are they a little behind? So just so you can kind of help monitor and give them the time they need, make sure they're spending enough time in each of the subjects. And I don't know if you want to add on to any of that, Mr. Hausch.
No, I thought that was a great explanation. Thank you.
There is a really good question about, since we're giving kids a few days to get acclimated with the Seesaw and navigation through Google, or is Huber Heights planning on giving students a few days as they get into the Schools PLP next week to get comfortable?
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, we all know that we have to be patient with ourselves and with each other. And this is a time where we have to have a lot of grace. So we are focused on making sure that your kids feel good, that they're engaged. There's no gotchas or anything. We're just going to be, continuing to monitor how things are going, and then kind of being flexible about our approach from there. And as I said before in the chat, your feedback's really important. We want to know how your experience is at home. We want to know what's working and what's not working, because we want to be able to respond to that. So, in kind and positive ways, if you can give feedback and say, this didn't work for my child, and we tried, and we want to be able to help you and support you, but also, maybe change a little bit of how we're approaching things if it's too much, if it's not enough, so those are the things we really need feedback around. We've never done this before. Most kids and families and schools have never been focused on online learning. It's a brand new thing for all of us. So we're just going to try to get better and better at it as we go. And, we definitely want your feedback. It's important to us.
Great. There also is a question around the recordings for those families that would like to revisit this conversation. Where might they access the recording of tonight's session?
So this session, as well as last night's session, it's on the main page of our Huber Heights City Schools website, and you can see it there. It'll be under the label of the Family Orientation for PLP. So you'll be able to rewatch that if that's helpful. And the other thing I want to point out is if you go to the Huber Heights City Schools website, there are tons of resources on that front page right now. How to log into Seesaw, how to get into your Chromebook using a badge, you know, how to navigate Google Classroom. There's a document on there that says how, you know, for each grade band, how to log into the Chromebook itself. So there's a lot of stuff there. And the reason it's there is that we're hearing you, we're listening, and we're responding by trying to put information out there to make it easier. So I think the website's pretty helpful right now, but, you know, we will still support you through phone calls or whatever it takes to make sure that your kids are getting on and they have access.
And oh, there was a question, a technical question. How do we use cameras on Chromebooks?
So the camera should, it should activate when you open the app that you're using. So, you know, if you're using a Google Meet, it kind of, you know, automatically triggers the camera. When we're logging in, when you hit next, I believe it's next, it's in the instructions, but it activates the camera because we've set it up so that it's going to read a badge. So the camera is usually activated through the app that you're using. And a lot of times it's automatic because that app knows the camera needs to be used.
Great, great. Attendance. So if a child is sick and unable to log in on a particular day, is there a way that they can watch the lessons at a later time? What might that look like?
So we are trying to make sure that all of our, as much as possible, all of our teaching throughout the day is you know, on the Google Classroom or Seesaw. The materials are there, whether they're written materials, whether they're videos. You know, we're trying to also make sure that when teachers are doing meetings with kids, that there's also that option of having that content saved so that kids can watch it later. So we're kind of, you know, learning how to do that, learning how to make sure that even if your child's not on that Google Meet or in attendance, they can still access the information later. And so it'll be there in those platforms for the kids. And you know, you have to take a sick day and you have to, you know, you have appointments and things like that. So we understand that. So we're trying to make sure this kind of system works for all different family situations.
Sure. That pretty well concludes most of the questions. There are a lot of questions just around the use of the technology, how to do a screenshot, some of those things. So what would you advise, Mr. Hausch, for students that are just struggling with some of those technical pieces?
I think that once you have access, the other things are going to be taught to your kids, and your teachers are going to teach them how to use the tools. So if you're worried about how they'll access PLP, the teachers are going to walk them through that. If you're worried about how will my kid take a screenshot and turn something in, the teachers are going to show them how to do that. So all that stuff is going to come. That's why we have our Huber Heights teachers guiding and working with the kids every day. So they're not going to be on their own. We're going to guide everybody through that. And it's not something that parents need to teach their kids right now. When the kids need to do those things, the teachers will teach them how to do that. They'll instruct them and support them in that.
Okay, I believe we've covered pretty much all the questions that are in the chat. So thank you, Mrs. Anderson and Mr. Hausch, for answering those questions for us.
You're welcome. And we'll hopefully be able to continue to help support you if you need any tech support. So,
yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for attending. Tomorrow's the second day of school, so make sure your students, your kids get a great night's sleep, and keep reaching out to us. We're going to keep supporting you, and go Warriors.
Good night.
good night. Enjoy the school year.